All right, hello YouTube. And House of the Dragon was pretty spicy tonight, right? We got all the politicking, we got the intimacy we're so used to with Game of Thrones and Song of Ice and Fire as a whole. And I want to say right out, right, because last week I thought that was my least favorite episode, and they followed it up with my favorite episode so far of the series. We didn't What we saw with the later episodes of Game of Thrones was every episode needed to have a battle. It needed to have this or that. This episode was completely political drama, completely about character building and the pieces starting to move, right? You're really starting to get into the bigger parts of the Dance of Dragons and the chapter in Fire and Blood, or I guess the chapters. And I have a whole note sheet we're going to go through. We're going to go scene by scene throughout the entirety of it. And I will say, I'm going to give this episode a 9 out of 10. I thought it was fantastic. This is not the way I interpreted Fire and Blood, and specifically Rhaenyra's character, but that's what I think is beautiful about how they were able to choose this time period, because again, there's a lot of rumors, there's a lot of different ways you can interpret the events leading up to the Dance of Dragons, and even some of the events that happened during it. And I think the way Rhaenyra's character had been built up in the show, it makes a lot of sense why they went this route with her character. And I really like the way they made some changes here and there that were major and minor to the source material that makes sense with the way they had been going with the story. So I really think they did a great job with this episode. Hey Grease, hi Matthew, how are you? Hi Young Wolf, don't blame you. I also love Alt Shift X's streams. I think they're really good. They're usually the only he's the only YouTuber I really go to when like listening to other content. But I really loved this episode. Let me know what you guys think down in the chat as you're coming in. What are your guys' thoughts on House of the Dragon Part 4, or I guess Episode 4? There will be spoilers talked about in this stream, so again, if you have not watched the episode yet, I would probably click off. But yeah. When you guys are rewatching the stream, for you guys that were not in it when I was live, let me know in the comments, what did you guys think about the episode? Also, let me take the Lord of the Rings thing off the screen, because that doesn't need to be there. But let's kind of go through my real only, I guess, maybe negative that really isn't a problem with this episode. It's more of a problem with last episode, is that there really felt like there needed to be a scene of Rhaenyra and Alicent discussing, I guess, how do I want to put this? Discussing Rhaenyra and Alicent's kind of relationship, where Alicent kind of backstabs Rhaenyra almost with marrying her dad. And we still didn't get that. You can sense there's still some unease, but Alicent and Rhaenyra kind of through their own mutual struggles, it seems like have kind of started to bond again and become friends again. But what I like about this episode that I think is good for the show, it's not the way I interpreted Rhaenyra's character in the book, Fire and Blood, but they made Alicent a lot more likable in this episode, in my opinion. They showed the struggles through her eyes with being, the queen, and also with being with an older man who really is kind of with her for not the right reasons, it almost feels like. I didn't like this episode at all. It was worse. Matthew, why did you not like this episode? So, because for me personally, the reasons that I may not like this episode would be because they went a lot of different routes with characters that it's not the way I interpreted them in Fire and Blood, but they have the creative ability to be able to make those decisions because we don't know what happened. So, yeah. I love this episode, and there was incredible acting with Alicent and her having the daughter and talking to Rhaenyra about being so. Yes, I think Alicent was the highlight of the episode. I think she was the best character that was improved in this episode. I do think something I dislike, right, is Daemon is very much a villain in this story, whereas in Fire and Blood, I always read him as kind of a anti-hero or someone that was maybe misunderstood. But the show really is painting him in a very, he's kind of a villain, right? We always see him being very selfish, very only caring about really himself. Don't like that aspect. I think Daemon was somebody in episode 1 that I thought was really good. They were doing a good job making him very morally gray. But I think as the episodes go on, I think he's becoming more and more of a villain in my eyes. But Moonlight Special, where can I get the book? If you're talking about Fire and Blood, you can pretty much just order it on Amazon or anything like that. You know, it is right. Oh, I always get confused with the inverted camera, but that is the book right there. That is the series is based on. I did like Alicent in this episode. I do agree. Yeah, I think Alicent, they made it a lot more compelling. Again, spoilers for what is going to maybe happen in the future, but they made Alicent's side of the story a lot more understandable, right? And they made Rhaenyra, who a lot of the criticism in the earlier episodes has been that Rhaenyra has been our lead protagonist. She's been the good character. But yeah, Moonlight Special, you can pretty much pick that up in most places. I mean, if you're looking online, I think you can get it probably all the major ones. So Walmart, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any of those places. In person, it might be a bit difficult because Fire and Blood came out a little while ago, but I think you can probably still get it at like a Walmart or a Target or something like that. You probably still could in person. Matthew, give me like your summarized thought, like maybe like your big points you didn't like. Thank you. What are your thoughts on the tea? So it makes sense just from a point of view, but of Viserys, where it's like he doesn't know the truth, right? So I very much look at Viserys as almost like, as you're reading Fire and Blood, you're the one left up to decide, do you think this happened or not? And all that. I think that's what they're kind of playing on, where Viserys, I think he wants to believe that Rhaenyra is correct, but at the same time, he's kind of, I think, offering that option that, yes, if something did happen, Rhaenyra, here's the tea. I think that's how he's kind of thinking about it. But I don't know, because I think Daemon gave a good performance to Viserys, right? That he, probably got with her. But it's a weird thing, because Viserys is just a weird character, because what I think is interesting that I love that they did a little wink to the camera, right? So when Otto Hightower tells Viserys that Rhaenyra was, doing things with Daemon, it's kind of my exact reaction to how it was in the book series, or I guess Fire and Blood. Because in Fire and Blood, when this is mentioned that they were doing things together, I always thought this was just a rumor by Otto Hightower to kind of smear Rhaenyra. That's what I always talked about. If you look at the first Grand Maester conspiracy video I did in that series, it was kind of talking about how I thought it was a smear campaign against Rhaenyra. I like that they winked at that, because they didn't go that route, but they could have. I like that they kind of showed that side of it as well. Mushroom is in the episode 5 sneak peek, I think. Maybe. I watched the trailer. I didn't see him in there, but I could have missed him. But I thought it was interesting the way we saw some things. I like that they slowed the pace down, right? So we were very much skipping a lot in time, right? And this episode very much kind of stayed in the same time period and all that. And I liked that, right? I liked that we got to have some more development and things to happen. Biggest thing I didn't like was the whole Rhaenyra, Daemon, Criston Cole route, but that, and it's too long to say why in live chat. Yeah. There are aspects of it that I did like, but the general direction I did. So, Matthew, I agree with you on the idea that story-wise, I like the idea that in the book series, it was kind of one of those things where Criston Cole starts to develop feelings for Rhaenyra, and Rhaenyra kind of spurns him. And I think they're really playing towards the idea that, yes, Rhaenyra is going to be the one that spurns Criston Cole, just based on how the episode ends, where Rhaenyra is like, okay, I will do my duty with the Aegon's prophecy thing, and I will marry Laenor. So I think they're gonna do that, but they double dipped a little. So they had Rhaenyra actually sleep with Criston Cole, and it's this idea that, yes, Rhaenyra did lose her virginity, but at the same time, it wasn't to the person that most people believe it is. So that was kind of interesting. Something that I thought was a little interesting is I actually didn't know if, like, Daemon had actually kind of, like, taken Rhaenyra's virginity in that scene. I wasn't sure if it was just a quickie and then, Daemon was just out of there. But then I wanted to make sure before I streamed that he didn't or whatever. It was just kind of weird the way that scene went, but I think he's in the feast. Okay, that makes sense. You were right all along, young wolf. You were right. I didn't see it coming. Honestly, thought their chemistry was not that of a sexual nature. I can see where you're coming from there. The problem with me is that I knew it was coming, so it's hard there because as I'm watching the scene, I know where this is going to go. So yeah, I don't know. That's a different one, but I can definitely see your point. At 7 second mark, I will have to look then. It's the other way around. Rhaenyra gets spurned by Criston, I believe. That's possible. But I think my thing is with like how the episode ends is how I thought it went initially. So the way in the book Fire and Blood it's presented is that there's really a couple options you can believe. So the first option is that Rhaenyra, being the princess and the heir, is kind of like, I can't be with you, Criston, right? And that, you know, I have my duties to do, right? I can't be with you, Criston, right? And that maybe that Criston asked her to kind of maybe go run away with her or whatever. And the other way is that Criston Cole, being a knight of the, you know, the Kingsguard, says, you know, we can't do this, Rhaenyra. And then he denies her and kind of feels insulted and all that stuff, and he ends up, you know, not getting with her. So that's kind of your two options there. Comics and cosmetics, we are talking about spoilers. So again, if you don't want to hear those, I probably would exit out of the stream because we will be talking spoilers in the stream. So there is that idea. So it's kind of which side do you believe, right? And this show went a bit different route with it, right? Where they did have a relationship and they did, you know, again, spoiler, big spoiler, they do end up kind of sleeping together. So the question is going to be, in episode 4, how's that going to go? The way I take it is that Rhaenyra at the end of the episode is like, okay, I will be with Laenor, but you got to get rid of Otto. Okay, and that's all. That seems like Rhaenyra is switching up her character and is not going to go with Criston Cole, and that's how that's going to work out. That's how I see it going. Maybe it'll be the other way around, because Criston Cole very much seemed like he at first was kind of not wanting to do this with Rhaenyra. It gives me a lot of Eris Oakheart with Arianne vibes, the way the scene plays out. If you guys have read A Song of Ice and Fire, there is a POV character in Dorne named Eris Oakheart. He is one of the Kingsguard. He ends up, you know, having a relationship with Arianne Martell, which is the daughter of Doran, and it seems very similar in the way it kind of plays out. So I thought that was interesting. Anxious to see the Rhaenyra I'm interested to see what route they go. But yeah, you have to be blind not to see the Targaryen sexual. Agreed. He let Otto go very quickly. I was like, welp, so this is actually another interesting point. The Otto Hightower dismissal is a lot different in the book. So again, they're staying close to the source material in certain ways, but they're also going different routes. So the reason in the book series Otto Hightower is not in the counts, or he's like gone from being hand, is because he keeps pushing really hard for Aegon to be named the heir over Rhaenyra. It doesn't have anything to do with Otto telling Viserys about, you know, Rhaenyra's activities. That's not really where that happens. So that is something that they changed for the show, but I think it made a lot more sense for the show at this point. I think it made more sense. So I was okay with that change. Grease finally got his Alicent. Liam, no, stop. I wanted to see an Alicent and Rhaenyra scene discussing like everything that happened. Like they kind of get back together like very quickly, I feel like, which I guess it's understandable why they start to kind of have common cause with each other, but it seemed like there was a scene missing, which we do know there were scenes missing from episode 3. We saw that there was a wedding like type thing planned for Viserys and Alicent. We just never got it. It was cut. So yeah, I think those scenes being cut, I think did impact Rhaenyra and Alicent's kind of relationship. Damon is ugly. Yeah, I like Damon better with the longer hair. I think the shorter hair really, it's not his look. I'll be honest. The Young Wolf, I didn't see it with Daemon, but Kristen, yes, it was ignited when he went after her last week. Oh, okay, yeah. I agree with that. Eris is awesome. That's agreed. Ariane takes Moon Tea. Yep. It wasn't too bad, but I was really disappointed. Was Daemon's entrance better in the? Yeah, I think Daemon in Fire and Blood is just better. I think. I don't know. It's weird because I think in the book, I think Daemon's character is much better. I feel like the first two episodes really captured Daemon pretty well. I think there were some scenes here and there that I was like, not the best. But I thought they did a really good job. And then the last two episodes, I've really not liked Daemon's portrayal for the most part. He went from being like the top character to one of the characters where I'm like, I see why they changed him. But at the same time, I'm like, what happened to Alicent's baby? Not Aegon? What do you mean? Oh, you mean I forget her name. It starts with an H, but Alicent's second child? I don't think they introduced her in this episode, which I thought was a little interesting because I thought they were going to, but I don't think they did. I think it's just Aegon basically. I think they did that because of Laenar's and Rhaenyra's weddings. Probably didn't want to. Yeah, but like that's a very important wedding, and there were scenes like that were in there, right, where we see that Rhaenyra and Alicent were, in scenes together, right? And I think there is a scene missing that they cut. That there was a conversation with Rhaenyra and Alicent about what happened, and I think that is the one thing I think on the first 4 episodes that's kind of a weakness because when you look at how their relationship develops in this episode. It kind of seems like they're just doing that to put them together so we can sympathize with Alicent and understand Alicent, and then also to paint Rhaenyra in a much more morally gray light because she is lying to Alicent, and to make kind of their relationship when it eventually fizzles out a bit more, I guess, impactful. It would have been better if we got the book version then it got extended with the scene. Yeah, agreed. I mean, I agree. But here's the thing, right, Matthew? I think Fire and Blood and that portion of the book is like my favorite. I think it's some of my favorite reading in the entire series. But there's so many routes and interpretations of what happened, and putting that onto screen, I think they did a fine job with the changes they made. They made Alicent so sympathetic this episode. Yeah, Glossy, agreed. I think Alicent, and that's a good thing, by the way, because it makes it to where when we see some inevitable split, right, it's going to make that choice of who are you supporting a lot harder. And I think that was a really good direction from this episode. Do you think Lionel will be the hand in the show? Probably, because he's really the only other council member that we've really gotten a decent amount of time with, so I think so. And also, Lionel has been one of the few people that I feel like have given Viserys good counsel for the most part, so I think Viserys will see that. I think Lionel probably will be. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. The king and queen scenes are very choppy, pregnant one episode, then years later on the next. Do you think it will always... So... This episode actually was kind of a slowdown from that, but I think so. Here's what's going to happen, Moonlight. I think we're going to get one more episode where we're kind of still in the same time period, right? Because in the preview, we've seen that Laenor and Rhaenyra's wedding and their kind of announcement or whatever is going to be next episode. So I think that is going to be the last episode we are going to get with young Rhaenyra, young Alicent. And then I think we're going to get a big time jump in episode 6, where we're going to see the older actors and actresses. And then from that point on, I think we'll have we won't have many time skips. I think it'll be very much, this is here. These are the time period we're in. So I hope that answers your question on that idea. I thought that Alicent's facial act, yeah, she did a very good job of facial acting in this episode. I give her a lot of credit. She did a great job. Oh, I'm not dissing the change. I'm just saying it would have been. Yeah, I agree. I agree, Matthew. Sorry if I took that the wrong way. We saw Mushroom. Yes, we did see Mushroom. I didn't see him. I guess I wasn't paying attention, but you guys said he was there, so yeah. Damn, that is right. Damn. Was that kid Benjicott Blackwood? I'm not sure which Blackwood that was, but that was a dope scene, by the way. I thought that was a really cool scene where he just impales the other. I liked that scene. That was a cool scene. But we've gone through a lot of this. The opening scene of like courting Rhaenyra, I thought was a good scene. It just kind of showed where Rhaenyra was at, and kind of the idea that, yeah, this is kind of what women go through in this society, where we have the idea that women really, and this is the one thing I loved about Alicent's character, is she's like, Rhaenyra, you really, there's so few people that are women in this world that get to choose who they get to marry, and you're complaining, right? So, and yes, we do see kids, we see older guys, right? But that's not everybody that was there. There was clearly probably other people there that would have been a good match for Rhaenyra that would have been her own age. But she clearly doesn't want to get married, right? She doesn't want to be tied down. She's scared of kind of, we see this with her talk with Daemon, that she's kind of scared of what the fate of her mother, of what happened there, where she just becomes someone that, you know, pops out heirs. That's her only use in the world, really. And that's an interesting theme for this time period and Game of Thrones as a whole, right? Of women's role in society, in this society. So are they going to show Kristen and Rhaenyra? Yes, I think it has to, right? This is about the time when it should happen. And that, yeah. I loved Rhaenyra shutting down that old man in the bed. Yeah, agreed. I thought that was funny. I'm already in Rhaenyra and Christ's story, and now she'll be married off. Invested, yes. So, Moonlight, without giving away what is going to happen with their story, because again, this stream is going to have a lot of spoilers, right? If I have to talk about things that happen future on in the book, so I would be wary of that. But and I will try to say it when I go into those spoilers, so you know. But yes, it's gonna get a little spicy. Moonlight's gonna get a little spicy. I didn't like how Rhaenyra walked away from fight. Doesn't seem like her character, and we missed a possible cool fight scene, and it did bug me a bit that kid owns a guy. I agree, but I don't know. I just liked the guy was kind of being a dick, and then the kid just kills him. I thought it was funny. I did think it was kind of not, and this is my thing, Matthew. The Rhaenyra we're seeing on screen is not the Rhaenyra that I envisioned. So I think they're just going with a different way with Rhaenyra's character and trying to make her a lot more darker earlier on. Now Rhaenyra definitely is not a fighter, as Glossy says, but I think Rhaenyra, based upon my opinion of Rhaenyra in the book, is someone that would not have like just let the fight happen. She would have tried to take control of the situation. So I do agree with you on that one, Matthew. Agree, Matthew, on your comment about the Bracken guy. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about on the earlier portions of the episode? Daemon, like we talked about, his entrance into King's Landing is a bit different in the book, and it's better in the book, to be completely honest. But I thought this was still a fine introduction into him coming back. You see how everybody's like, "Oh, Daemon's back," because he hasn't been back in King's Landing for a couple years now. I think it's probably about 3. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. So, Glossy brought up something that I think is very interesting, but we're gonna get there in a second. I want to kind of get through kind of Daemon. He comes in, you know, he kneels, he does homage, and we kind of see this is like really a deception, because I think Daemon had this entire plan, right? So Glossy talks about how Daemon couldn't get up. It's embarrassing. So I kind of took that scene a bit differently. We know that Daemon doesn't find Rhaenyra attractive, right? Like at all. Or maybe he finds her attractive, but he doesn't want Rhaenyra, right? He wants the throne. Now, I, for one, right, took this a bit differently. I took this as Daemon was trying to get this like heard to the world, right? That Daemon was with Rhaenyra, because it just puts a bunch of things into disarray, right? And all at the same time, Daemon doesn't actually take her virginity or anything like that. Because I see it as like, if you look at how Daemon goes about this, Daemon says to Viserys, "Oh yeah, I took her virginity." And why does he do this, right? Because it sows chaos, right? And also, Daemon can be like, well, Viserys, you should just marry her to me. So he has the chance of that, which we know isn't going to go well. And then also, he can kind of sow these, seeds of doubt in Rhaenyra, because you guys have to remember, Daemon is now, at this point, by the public, is viewed as third in line, right? So if you look at the normal system, right, it would be Aegon, and then it would technically be Rhaenyra because Viserys is saying it's her, and then it would be Daemon. So he's kind of technically like third in line. Either way you look at it, right? If you even look at it by Viserys, it would be Rhaenyra, Aegon, Daemon. So he's third in line. So Daemon is pretty much trying to figure out any way of trying to get up in the, I guess, what would you call it? Line of succession. I'm glad he didn't. Yeah. Also, I may have misheard, but one of the showrunners referred to the Daemon radio scene as abuse. I'm not sure why it would be abuse. I mean, maybe mental abuse, but like Daemon and Rhaenyra, or at least Rhaenyra, definitely like wanted it, basically. But I don't know. I did think that was a weird scene, though. I don't know. I did think that was a weird scene. I do agree with you guys on the scene. I didn't like the portrayal of the scene, because my thing is like, so we have Mysaria, or how do you say her name? I don't remember her name, but is kind of taking care of Daemon, basically. Like, she, sets him up or whatever. But she's basically the one that informs Otto Hightower of what happens. Now, we know, like, she knows that Daemon, didn't do anything, like, didn't actually take her virginity. So I think what this was kind of playing on was just kind of a ploy by Daemon to create chaos. It's kind of like a Littlefinger move, right? Where it's like, it doesn't need to be truthful to cause chaos. Because look at what happens by the end of the episode. Otto Hightower is out his hand to the king, right? Rhaenyra is being set to be matched to someone. And even if this wasn't actually Daemon's plan, because Daemon probably wanted to marry Rhaenyra to move him up in the line of succession, it still creates a lot of problems. So I think really this was Daemon's kind of quote unquote plan from the beginning, right? So I don't know. We'll see. I think Criston will break up with Rhaenyra and she will go to Harwin and he will be mad. That's very possible. I could see that happening as well. I think it would. I don't know. It's just, for me, it's weird because of the way they ended the episode on. That if they would have gone with that a bit differently, where if Rhaenyra would have said, or if Viserys would have had to force Rhaenyra into it a bit more, I think I would buy Rhaenyra still trying to continue the relationship with Criston, and Criston being the one to break it off with her. But just the way Rhaenyra acts at the end of the episode, I just feel like it's going to be Rhaenyra breaking it off with Criston. Did you know that we saw Joffrey Lawnmouth last episode? Yeah, I heard Alt Shift X and his mentioning it. I personally didn't notice, but yeah, I do know now. He's definitely going to be in the next one. Yes, you probably will. But yeah, so a lot of things going on that idea. The showrunners are trying to make it out like Daemon was trying to get back at Viserys by taking Rhaenyra's maidenhood, but IDK how they just went expecting Otto's spies to see them. Hold on, I'm trying to decipher your comment. Hold on, Matthew. So that's what the showrunners, they say that like after the episode or something like that, because that's not at all how I interpreted that scene. Which I think is going to be interesting, because I think there's going to be a lot of different interpretations of how that scene went, because I took this as, okay, Daemon takes off both of their identities, right? Because if he wanted to have, you know, his way with Rhaenyra, he didn't need to take off her like identity, right? If they would have just kept both their identities on, nobody notices. But he makes Rhaenyra take off like her little thing at the top, takes off his thing, so everybody's gonna notice them, right? It's the prince and the princess, or not the prince, but you know, Daemon, right? The brother of the king. He wanted them to be seen. So I always took this as, there's really two ways you take this. Is one is like Daemon was trying to take her virginity to basically make Viserys, force him into making Rhaenyra marry him. Or kind of doing what I said, where it was like, it was kind of a plan. Daemon didn't actually want to, you know, sleep with her. He wanted it to be seen and then kind of told to, you know, I don't know, just kind of create chaos and stuff like that. Yeah, in the inside, in the inside of the episode. Okay, all right. That's a little interesting because that's not the way I took it, right? That's not the way I took how they were framing that, because it's weird in the way it all happens, because I don't know, that's very interesting. Because if it isn't Daemon trying to feed Otto Hightower bad information, or with the help of Mysaria, I don't understand, because there was a bunch of people there that would have seen that they obviously, like in the room, I would add, that saw that they didn't, like they made out, and that's about the extent of it. So I don't actually understand. And I guess Daemon couldn't get it up is what they're going with, but that just doesn't seem like Daemon. Like, this is the dude that is in brothels all the time. You're telling me he couldn't get it up? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Okay. The showrunners can have what they wanted it to be. I'm going to take it the way I saw it as, but yeah. I don't know. I think that's an interesting way of coming at it, I guess. I think they could have done a better job in that aspect of it, but I don't know. That's just me. Let me know what you guys think on that. That's why I don't watch the inside of the episodes, by the way, or from the directors, because I like just to interpret it from my own point of view, I guess. Yeah, so or I don't know how to say her name. Hold on. Nora Boro. They didn't really set that up at all. Like, if that's what they're trying to go with. Because they didn't really set that up at all. Like, at no point are we made to believe that Daemon is doing this because he's trying to get back at Viserys. Like, if they had set that up, it would have made more sense. But that's why I came up with my whole theory that Daemon planned to not take her virginity and to kind of start the rumor and all that. Because, like, they didn't set that up, really, in my opinion. I could see Daemon doing that, but the way it was set up wasn't good. If Rhaenyra went to him about pissing Criston Cole and he took advantage of the situation, but then again, I don't see Daemon doing it. I like him being the badass caring uncle, and can't say agreed. So like that's, I don't know. There's a that kind of hurts like how I like look at the episode now. But if I'm going off of my own interpretation of it, I think it's a bit different. So I don't know. That's very interesting that the way you guys are letting me know on the inside about it, but I don't know. That's just not the way I interpreted that scene, like, at all, or what Daemon's motives were in this episode at all, I guess. Let's see. Anything else? I thought the reunion of Daemon and Viserys was actually really good. I think seeing them kind of laughing and, you know, stuff like that was really cool. And them embracing. So again, there was really no setup in here where Daemon was getting back at Viserys. Like, Daemon doesn't act like that to Viserys at all. So that's why, not really seeing where they were going with that on that idea. Rhaenyra being shunned basically by Viserys. Kind of an interesting scene, right? We get why, because Rhaenyra didn't find someone. But at the same time, you know, it just shows again Rhaenyra's kind of, I guess, aloneness or loneliness. So I thought that was interesting. The fact that all the small people and hate her already. So this is something that's interesting. So I thought that scene was very interesting because I thought they were going to go a different route with it. I thought it was going to be like everyone was going to cheer for Daemon because he won the Stepstones, the War of the Stepstones, and then he came back. I thought that's what we were going to get. We didn't get that either, but what I thought was very interesting is that in Fire and Blood, Rhaenyra, especially early on in her life, is considered the darling of the realm. Everybody loves Rhaenyra. She is like one of the most popular figures, right? People only hate Rhaenyra later on. Things change and stuff happens to where people don't like Rhaenyra. So I thought that was kind of weird. But I guess, you know, people are going to be different, right? I agree. I agree, Nora Boro. The scene with Viserys and Alicent is going to give me nightmares. I agree. I do think it was a good placement of the scene because on one side we saw sex being used as just forwarding kind of the line for Viserys where he's just trying to get another kid. There really wasn't any pleasure in it from Alicent at all. I don't even know if Viserys got any pleasure out of it, but yeah, but then we saw the opposite of where you're in a brothel where everyone's there for just straight pleasure. There's no real duty there. So I thought that was a good parallel to put the scene in, right? But yeah. Okay, so I wrote in here that I thought the scene with Alicent and Rhaenyra was fantastic. I loved that we see more of the human side of Alicent and kind of how she's able to relate to Rhaenyra while also kind of telling Rhaenyra, like, come on, just do your duty and stop, like, you know, being this person that's, you know, you're given the option of all these people to marry. You got to find someone, right? And also kind of being able to relate to her and kind of be exactly what Rhaenyra is scared to be. Where Alicent's very much in this position where she's really only being used to forward the line, as we've talked about in the stream, and how she really feels like she doesn't have many friends, which is also something very similar to Rhaenyra. So I really liked that scene between the two. Again, like I mentioned, I feel like there was a scene missing before that scene. Yeah. Daemon and Rhaenyra's first scene together, which I used in the thumbnail, was very good. I liked how we're seeing how Daemon's like, you know, again, people constantly are telling Rhaenyra in this episode, hey, you're really not in the worst situation, Rhaenyra. Like, there is much worse things that could possibly be going on. I mean, think about, for instance, book readers of A Song of Ice and Fire. Think about Jane Poole's life. Like, you know, there's so much worse things that could be happening to you, Rhaenyra. Like, you know, and I thought that was something that they did pretty well in this episode where Rhaenyra kind of needs to mature and needs to kind of grow up a little bit and kind of start to do her duties a bit more. Which is something I never really got from Fire and Blood. In Fire and Blood, I feel like Rhaenyra is very much painted as someone like Robb Stark, where they, from a very young age, are someone that is taking a lot of responsibility and trying to grow up. Now we see where both of these characters in Fire and Blood have certain situations where they kind of they feel their age, right? Where when, you know, Robb, right? Like, right, Robb in the book series or Game of Thrones has kind of a relapse and, you know, has a marriage that they break with the Freys, which leads to their death. So, or his death. So we kind of see that more in Fire and Blood. And this show, they're really going the route of she's a normal kind of person, but she's 19 at this point and she's still kind of thinking very kind of childish. So definitely needed a lot of scenes where they're trying to get Rhaenyra to where she kind of grows up a bit. Let's see, what else do we have? We see Alicent struggle with motherhood, where there's no one really helping her, right? And the baby's constantly crying, which leads to a good fade-in scene with Rhaenyra. But yeah, it's just kind of this episode really focuses on Alicent as she's the more grown up of the two between Alicent and Rhaenyra. How she's already struggling with the ideas of motherhood and of being a wife, and how that can lead to problems. Forget blacks and greens. I'm all about that House Blackwood versus House Bracken. That's fair. It's okay, Glossy. I'm here for you, and we shouldn't see that again. Yes, we should not see that again. That's not true. That's not true. We could see it again, but hopefully we don't. Well, yeah, hopefully we don't see it again, but yeah. We get a scene with the council talking about the sea snake problems, which is kind of foreshadowing pretty much for the ending of who Rhaenyra is going to marry and why it's so important for Rhaenyra to marry into the Velaryon family, especially because they're basically in control. They were at one point in control of basically 2 dragons, so it makes a lot of sense. That being with kind of through Daemon and then also Laenor. So that, and also Rhaenys. So technically at one point, like when the War of the Stepstones was going on, there was 3 dragons basically. So it kind of makes sense with Rhaenys having a dragon and also Laenor that they would marry into that family, and why they're so dangerous. They're, you know, the richest house. They have dragons. It makes sense. You need them as allies. That's something that they kind of talk about in the council scene, with also how Sea Snake's trying to marry into some other families across the sea. But yeah. What is your score for the episode? Initially going into the stream, without you guys kind of telling me some of the background information from the directors, I would have said a 9. I'm now hovering more on like an 8.5. I thought it was a really good episode. I think this is still probably my favorite episode. I liked a lot of the political intrigue going on. I liked the conversations we had going on. I thought it was good. Thank you, Matthew. I need emotional support. Glossy, I don't know how much emotional support I can give you after you said you liked the crab feeder like 2 streams ago. So, yeah, I'm just going to leave it out there. I didn't like Alicent's dress. Oh, it looked like she was team. That's true. It was pretty. Like, I'll agree with you, Glossy, but it's the wrong side. Maybe it's signifying that right now Alicent is very much on Team Rhaenyra. We see Alicent defend Rhaenyra when she's talking to Viserys as we get on later on in the episode, but yeah, maybe it signifies that. I don't know, Glossy. I don't know. You really had a bad judgment call there, I won't lie. Some would say you had a Rhaenyra judgment call. But yeah, so we get the scenes where Rhaenyra is kind of out on the town with her uncle Daemon. You know, we get the play scene. You know, there's some good scenes there. And we've already talked about the Rhaenyra Daemon like brothel scene, so we're not going to talk too much more about it. I've talked about it in the past. Very weird scene, in my opinion. I think they could have done that scene a little bit better, and they went that route, which is a different route kind of than Fire and Blood, because it's very much left up to us to decide if that happened. But yeah. All right. Rhaenyra does run into Harwin, so that was interesting. We got to see them run into each other kind of for the first time, so that was cool to see. I have specifically down Alicent's sex scene, and we're just not going to talk about that. We have the brothel scene. So then we have the leading of Criston Cole and Rhaenyra's relationship. So after basically Rhaenyra kind of gets left, I guess. I don't know how else to explain it. She gets teased basically. She's kind of in her feels. She's a little horny. And she invites Criston Cole in. And Criston Cole, it seems very reluctantly at first, like I talked about with the Aerys Oakheart and Arianne kind of thing. But he gives in to his urges, and we see Rhaenyra lose her virginity to Rhaenyra loses her virginity to Criston Cole. And yeah, it's the beginning of their love relationship, I guess. And yeah, so I don't know how much else I would say on that, but that's not the way the book goes, by the way, at all. Just for the book fans, basically what happens in the book is that there's a situation where Laenor and Rhaenyra are about to get married, and something happens between Criston Cole and Rhaenyra. They didn't sleep together at all in the book. That's not even really a rumor. And Rhaenyra goes to someone else. So Glossy, I'm here for you. I'll make you feel better through oh boy. Well, Agreed, Glossy. It was a big change, big change. And then we get Damon and Missaria, their scene. So this was why I kind of felt like Damon was just playing it, right? I felt like Damon kind of knew what he was doing for the most part, but I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. It's just weird. I don't want to talk really about Damon, like his whole point, because now I don't know. Because I took it a complete different way, but yeah. So we see Missaria again, and Damon is drunk and hungover and all that stuff. But yeah. But that also, I agree, Glossy. That was a good change of pace for Rhaenyra's kind of relationship stuff. Also, I'd like to point out, guys, I have won my first week of fantasy football in the Grease Goblin Fantasy Football League. We killed it today, so I'm proud of the football lads. We see Otto basically informs Viserys of what happens. I talked about this a little bit in the beginning of the stream, where Viserys is kind of like me when I was reading Fire and Blood, where he's kind of defending Rhaenyra and kind of rationaling through that. So I thought that was a good scene where Viserys doesn't just blindly follow Otto Hightower. I thought that was a good idea. And all that. We have another scene with Criston Cole and Rhaenyra, which was a solid scene. Nothing really else to say on that one. Now, this is what I thought was a good scene, where Rhaenyra and Alicent meet up, right? And Alicent's basically like, Rhaenyra, what the fuck did you do? What did you do? Okay. And Rhaenyra is basically lying to her, right? Until, like, Alicent kind of forces it on Alicent, or on Rhaenyra, that she knows some information. Rhaenyra is straight up just about to be like, what are you talking about? I haven't seen Daemon in years, you know? And I thought that was a good scene, because it shows that, like, Rhaenyra is not above lying to Alicent either, right? So we give Alicent a bunch of shit for kind of lying to Rhaenyra about, you know, her relationship with Viserys. Well, here's Rhaenyra basically doing the same thing. So I liked that. That was kind of like, I like how they're both, like, not great friends to each other at times. I know IDK how I feel about them sleeping together. Yeah, I agreed. I thought it made sense on how they were building up the characters. So for the show canon, I think it made sense. But Fire and Blood, it doesn't make any sense. And Rhaenyra has a girl boss moment when she convinced Viserys to get rid of it. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, she doesn't fully lie, because, you know, Daemon didn't, you know, actually take her virginity, but some things did happen. It did happen. But yeah. See, Matthew, I'm the opposite spectrum, which you know. I thought, when I read Fire and Blood, that, you know, I thought Criston Cole came onto Rhaenyra, but, you know. No, she does lie because she says Daemon never touched her and swore. Oh yeah, she does. Yeah, she does lie about that. Yeah, that's a good catch, Glossy. And lying on her mother. You know, when we have that scene in Game of Thrones where, you know, Alistair Thorne is questioning Maester Aemon how he knows about, like, if Jon's lying or whatever, and he goes, I grew up in King's Landing. Well, we got liars all over the place, okay? And they're all better than Sansa. But, yeah. Rhaenyra is making some morally gray decisions in this episode, so we'll see. We see as Rhaenyra kind of goes down on the morally gray ladder, Alicent's kind of climbing up a bit, so we have a good balance of that going on. It's going to be interesting to see how Alicent takes Otto Hightower being dismissed from the council, or as a hand. It's going to be interesting to see how she takes that. I hope we get a scene of that where Alicent's just pissed off, where she's just like, bruh, Viserys, why you do this? And then maybe it goes down to Rhaenyra, and then Alicent's like, what the hell? What the hell, Rhaenyra? You just got my job, or my dad fired. What the hell? So I hope we get some of that. That'd be great. I hope we see some of that in next episode. What else we got here? Daemon is taken to Viserys, basically drunk, can't really move, and he just plays around the fact that, yeah, I slept with her. What you gonna do about it, Viserys? And this is a really good scene between the two. I think they both acted pretty well in this scene as well. Viserys' acting's always good. Paddy's acting's always good. And Daemon basically gets told to go back to the Eyrie. So probably won't see Daemon in the next episode. We'll get a little bit of a break from him, at least for the time being. Let's move on. He attempts to also wed Rhaenyra, which we knew that wasn't going to go anywhere. But he does try it. He does try his luck, but it doesn't go well. We also talked about with Viserys and Alicent, where we have the scene where Alicent kind of defends Rhaenyra, saying that Rhaenyra is not the one that is deceitful, it's Daemon. While, as we just talked about, Rhaenyra lied straight to Alicent's face. So, yeah. Alicent is definitely going to be hurt when she finds out that Rhaenyra lied to her. I will comfort Criston about his loss of honor, don't worry. Oh boy, Glossy. That was something else where I preferred the book version where Otto gets this because of pushing again. So, I think for the books, it made sense a lot more to go that way. But I think the show, the way they were going with it, I think it did make sense. That makes sense, Matthew. But I did like the scene. So, personally, I liked it. But I can definitely see why you wouldn't like it, though. Moving on, we get the final kind of big scene of the episode with Rhaenyra and Viserys. I thought this was pretty good because Viserys doesn't start out super pissed off at her, super angry. It's the whole idea that, you know, when you're having an argument with your parents, something like that, you would rather them be angry than disappointed. And he starts out basically being like, yeah, you know, Aegon's prophecy was about the prince that was promised and that was going to come from the Targaryen bloodline. And you are the person that's supposed to be my heir, the person that's supposed to rule after me. And you're doing stupid stuff like this that it doesn't even matter if you were dishonored, right? It matters on your perception, how people perceive you, right? I thought this was a great scene by Viserys because Viserys doesn't fully believe one way or the other, I think, at this point, right? And we kind of get this back and forth, and Viserys basically goes, you're going to marry Laenor Velaryon. We need you to. It's what's got to happen. And this is another big change. This is why I don't think there's a Maester conspiracy on the show. Because in the book, it is very much Laenor Velaryon is the only choice given, and we straight up know that Laenor is either gay or bisexual. In the show, Rhaenyra doesn't act like this. Like, Rhaenyra has this specific line in Fire and Blood where she's like, Laenor wants to sleep with, you know, with like, I don't remember exactly what she says, but it's like the stable boys basically or something like that. And we don't get that, right? We don't get that. Rhaenyra kind of just accepts this, but she also says, you need to wake up, Viserys. Otto Hightower is playing you for a fool. He's only for it for himself and all this idea. And I think that this really builds Viserys' character, where Viserys isn't an idiot. He kind of realizes Alicent doesn't love me. She was put there because of Otto. And he kind of starts to see all the mistakes he's sort of made and how Otto Hightower has been someone that's very much in it for himself. So I think it's really good that we see Viserys not being an idiot. He is someone that struggles with being decisive and making the correct decisions. And I think this was really good, a good scene between Viserys and Otto Hightower where Viserys kind of starts to realize these things. This is very different from the book, where Viserys doesn't really know these things. Like, Viserys is kind of oblivious. Viserys, like I always talk about in the book, is very much just made out to be an idiot. He's dumb. He makes stupid decisions. He's not very decisive at all. He doesn't seem like he cares a lot about certain things. He's much like the portrayal of Viserys is, I think, the biggest pro from Fire and Blood to House of the Dragon. I think that is one thing they've done really well is Viserys' character. But at the end of this, we have Otto Hightower being stripped of power and all of that. And that is, I think, my last. No. So the last note we have is the Maester giving Rhaenyra the Moon Tea. I've talked about this a little bit at, I guess, the beginning of the stream. And this is kind of just an insurance policy for Viserys. He's just like, I don't care what happened at this point. Just don't get pregnant. Whatever happens, just do not get pregnant. And all of that. So that is kind of the episode review. Again, I really like the episode. I do think there are some questionable things that do get brought up with what you guys said about the showrunner's direction. So hopefully they clear that up going into the next episode about what Daemon was trying to do here, because it seems very questionable at this point. When you're looking at it on screen, I know I took it a different way. I know some people in chat have said they took it a different way than the showrunners intended. So I hope they clear that out up in the next episode. But that is kind of everything I wanted to talk about in this review. If there's anything you guys want me to talk about here at the end of the stream, let me know, because Wednesday we'll be doing our normal preview for episode, what are we on, 5 now? That's crazy. We're going to be on episode 5 next Sunday, halfway through the season. But yeah, anything you guys want me to talk about before we end out the stream, let me know in the chat right now. Or forever hold your peace. You will have to wait till Wednesday to ask your question. But yeah, I would say overall I give it probably an 8.5 after reflecting a little bit and hearing kind of chat's opinions on certain things. I'd probably give it an 8.5. I did like Rhaenyra's line about her being a male. Yeah, so that's another thing, is they really do lean like into women's roles in society, where if a woman has sex before, she's supposed to be married, she's damned, she is used goods, she's not a good candidate anymore. But if a male does it, it doesn't matter. And that's very much true. Right. By the way, Matthew just brought this up. It is 4 episodes in, and we still have 3 scenes of dialogue with Rhaenys. Please, dear God, give us Rhaenys scenes. Oh my God. I just want to see Rhaenys. Is that too much to ask? But yeah, we will see Rhaenys next episode. There's going to be a whole ordeal with the Velaryons next episode. We've already seen that Rhaenys is talking to Corlys about, how Rhaenyra's her ascendancy to the throne may be tested. So again, I really like that idea. What's up, Casper? You've kind of caught it at the end of the stream, but you can rewatch if you'd like. How did you like the episode? Thank you for your input tonight. New sub. See you next week. Well, thank you for subscribing, Moonlight Special. I hope you enjoy the rest of the series, and I will see you next week for the review. Or if you want to see the preview, I will be streaming Wednesday as well, and doing videos all throughout the week as well. No, it doesn't. Just ask Ned Stark, lol. Okay, that one's a little bit different, though. That one was kind of like a forced upon marriage where Ned had to. But that's like a very minute case. But yeah, for the most part, it's very damning. But yeah, I think that's where we're gonna end out stream. I like when Rhaenyra talks about being yeah, I think that's a really good. It was a good scene, but yeah. But yeah, I'm going to end out the stream, guys. Thank you all for who came in and watched the stream. Thank you guys for your input, helping me kind of get through the episode review as well. And I will see you guys all Wednesday with streams. And then you guys will get a review tomorrow. Again, just a shortened down one for people that weren't in the stream. And then I have a Rings of Power, and then it'll be a House of the Dragon video, like why House of the Dragon is winning on the 2. It'll be kind of a video like that. I think I'm going to do a Doran Martell Winds of Winter video. And what was the other one I was going to do? Hold on. Let me figure out what the other one was going to be. I have it on my notes. And then we're going to talk about Viserys' ruling. Is he a good king? What has he done wrong? We're going to talk about Viserys' kind of ruling as it's kind of seems like it's coming to a close.